finding unknown angles of parallel lines that are cut by a transversal. So in my directions, it tells me that A and B are parallel. We talked about parallel lines never touching. X, this diagonal line, is my transversal, so it's what's cutting those two parallel lines. We talked about last lesson that in parallel lines a transversal forms 8 angles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The symbol M, angle, means the measure of the angle, and you need to use your definitions that we talked about the last lesson in angles and relations to determine what the values are going to be and why. So if, for example, 1, it says that the measure of angle EFH, so EFH, so this measure is going to be 125 degrees. What is the measure of BFG? So it wants to know what this measure is. If we recall from our previous lesson, these two angles are what we call vertical angles. And because they are vertical angles, we know that they must have the exact same measure. So, angle BFG is also going to equal 125 degrees. For example 2, it says that if HFG, so HFG, this one, has a measure of 40 degrees, what is the measure of ABC? ABC. So we're trying to find what this measure is. Again, using our definitions, we know that this angle and the one we're trying to find are alternate exterior angles. They're both outside of our parallel lines, and they are alternate sides of the transversal. So because they are alternate exterior angles, we know that the measure of ABC has to equal the measure of HFG, which means this one also would be 40 degrees. For our third example, it says, what if ABF, so ABF, this large angle, is equal to 150 degrees. What is the measure of FBD? So I want to know what FBD is. So since these angles are adjacent and together will form a straight angle, we know that straight angles have to equal 180 degrees. Therefore, when I subtract 180 from my known of 150, I know that the angle I'm looking for would have to equal 30 degrees, because I can draw this half circle, and half of a circle is equal to 180, so 150 plus 30 will give me that 180. The other name that we use for a straight angle is a supplementary. That's our vocab term that we'll be using. Dropped a pen. for example 4, it says if CBD, so if this one is equal to 80 degrees, even though we know that that technically won't be correct because it's larger than our right angle of 90 degrees, but let's pretend like it's 80 degrees. We're just really practicing our definitions for this one. What would be the measure of angle BFG? So BFG. So again, ignore that we found that this is 125. We're pretending like we don't know that. So if we're looking at this one and this one, the relationship here is corresponding. Both angles are above the parallel line that they're touching, and they're on the same side, the right side, of the transversal. So because they're corresponding, angle CBD has to equal angle BFG, which means this angle is also going to equal 80 degrees. And lastly, we have example 5. It says if DBF, so again, this angle is equal to 65 degrees, what is the measure of BFE? So BFE, we want to know what this angle's measure is. Since they are both inside of the parallel lines, we know that they're interior. Since they're opposite or alternate sides of the transversal, one is top right, the other is bottom left, we know that they are alternate interior angles, which means that they are going to have equal measures as well. Therefore, angle BFE would also have to equal 65 degrees. Again, it's knowing and remembering the definitions that we learned before. Your vertical angles, alternate exterior, straight angles are supplementary, corresponding, and alternate interior angles.